Hello, a very warm welcome back to the Carey Blyth Gallery for part 2 of Bowman's Plashy Places. I mentioned in part 1 how Day had been able in the larger works to combine her fascination for urban wasteland with the littoral shoreline, and the paintings that I'm sharing with you today very much return to the beaches of her childhood days in Minehead. Lovely choice of medium here. She's working in oil, charcoal and conte on canvas, the same as for the larger works, and that enables her to create this mille-feuille, this beautiful depth. So she's starting off with a sketch in charcoal, creating balance on the page and overlaying that in oil with washes, with flat planes of colour, and you can see these clean cut lines, and over that she's drawing in charcoal and conte, beautiful gestural marks and motifs that reoccur through her work, and very cleverly she's able to combine that fine art of drawing with that of painting, and in the doing of that she's creating a sense of movement and light. These paintings are about water, and you can feel the draw and pull of incoming and receding tides, the play of light in white on the water surface. And these are the things that create the plashy places of the littoral shoreline. So the littoral shoreline extends from the high tide watermark all the way to the tide when it's out, and there are those sands that are always covered, albeit by the shallows of the sea. Quite a large area, and perhaps you enjoy making sandcastles, and if you like the structure afforded by a bucket, then you're better off at the top end of the beach where the sand is damp. But if, like me, you enjoy the drip castles, then you need to be in the plashy places where the sand is wet, and drawing it from small pools, teasing the water out. You can build drip by drip these wonderful fairy drip castles, and I spent many hours as a child attempting to build my drip castle taller than I stood, and in the doing of it the tide would come in and eat away at the base, and of course it would cascade down, melting back into the sea. And that race against time, that was part of the fun of it, but also the beauty of transience, and that transience is core to Day's work. If you look back to the Edgeland series that predated Urban Wastelands, her preoccupation was very much migration and borders. Not surprising, because growing up on a coastal in a coastal town in childhood days, she would have seen the coming and goings, the busyness of the summer and the long empty months when there was nobody about. And in adult years, with years of practice behind her, she would have reflected on the larger political issues that surround the movements of people, looking for a new life, taking that intrepid journey across the seas. And you can see here very clearly the footprints in the sand in this Fortress Study series. We are but dust in the wind, footprints in the sand. And coming on to these lovely tidal pool paintings, you have that sense of darkness, despite the fact that these paintings are small, they're 26 by 30 centimetres. Day manages to translate that sense of the majesty of the ocean and the darker moments. And of course, if you're migrating, life is not assured, is it? And if you're a fisherman, highly skilled, or yachtsman, or a very fine swimmer, respect at all times for the ocean. We all love the dynamic and drama of crashing waves and stormy seas, but it comes at a price. And Day never shies away from the darker moments. You cannot be complacent when you look at her work, and I love that. But also, in these beautiful tidal pool paintings, there is the fun, the magic of rock pooling. And certainly, I as a child, I expect you to, I spent many hours with my face at inches from the surface, scanning down for the movement of prawns across a sandy floor between hermit crabs and sea anemones with sticky fingers in red and blue, perhaps the iridescent green of seaweed wafting as the water pooled between the rocks. So there's so much poetry in Day's paintings. She's complex and skilled, and although ostensibly these paintings celebrate the sheer physicality of the littoral shoreline, they are imbued with that sense of migration, the movement of peoples, the coastal beaches, the busy summers, the deserted winters, the building of sand castles, the dreams of childhood. It's all there. And I find, looking at these, I'm reminded of how much of the literature that I love is inspired by the sea. So I recall my father's voice. He used to read to us Coleridge's Ancient Mariner. I've reread many, many times Old Man and the Sea. For me, Hemingway's best. I love Iris Murdoch, The Sea, beautifully staged. And Steinbeck's The Pearl, singularly stunning. For Day, like so many artists, she has her heart in poetry, and her particular reference in these works is W.B. Yeats's The Man Who Dreamed of Fairyland. And the subject is careworn and overburdened with the vicissitudes of life, and he looks down at the wet sands and he sees this humble lugworm mouthing its way to the surface. And I quote, "But while he passed before a plashy place, a lugworm with its grey and muddy mouth sang how somewhere from north to west to south there dwelt a gay, exalted, gentle race." And on that wistful, optimistic note, I'm going to leave you. I hope very much that you'll join me for the next bite size. I trust that these works translate in reproduction, but I know that they're very much more beautiful in person, and should you choose to visit the gallery, which opens tomorrow, Wednesday, June the 17th from midday, I will be here to ensure your well-being at all times. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.